Comments from French President Emmanuel Macron have re-escalated tensions between France and several African nations. Speaking during an annual foreign policy conference on January 6, 2025, the president expressed frustration with what he described as the lack of recognition on the part of Sahel states for France's military interventions against Islamist militants. His comment, "I think that they forgot to thank us, but that's okay. It will come in time," furthered the assertion that without French support, some Sahel nations would not have sovereignty, has drawn sharp criticism from African leaders and citizens. This controversy underlines the complex, often fraught relationship between France and its former African colonies. France has framed its military presence as a necessary counterbalance to terrorism, while for many Africans, it smacks of neo-colonial control. For many, Macron's statement was condescending and disrespectful to the sovereignty and sacrifice of Africa. Critics further lament that such a statement minimizes the sacrifice and resilience that African nations make to deal with their own challenges. In Senegal, the Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko hit back strongly. "We are a free, independent, and sovereign country," he said, reinforcing the determination of the nation to go its own way. In Chad, the Foreign Minister Abdourahmane Koulibaly slammed the remarks by Macron as showing a contemptuous attitude towards Africa and Africans. He said there was a need for mutual respect, recognition of African sacrifices, both past and present. Beyond the backlash, Macron's comments have also revived broader debates about France's role in Africa. Historically, French policy in Africa has been criticized for its strategic and economic interests rather than any genuine development of the continent. The continued presence of French military bases, strong economic influence through the CFA franc, and political interference are widely regarded as deterrents to full sovereignty and development in Africa. The French military presence in Africa has always been highly contentious. While French officials describe their troops as vital in the fight against extremism, for many Africans, this presence sullies native efforts and enforces dependency. Movements across the continent have taken to the streets in recent times to protest against the removal of foreign military bases, which they say are a symbol of neo-colonialism. These voices argue that the security challenges facing Africa need to be handled through local and regional mechanisms, not through foreign intervention. The economic dimension of France's influence is no less important. Since the use of the CFA franc has received criticism for taking away some degree of economic sovereignty from African nations, the system has received many accusations that it benefits France more than the African nations involved in perpetuating economic disparities between them and keeping them from any independent development. Moreover, France's policies are seen to undermine African development by fostering unequal partnerships. Infrastructure projects, trade agreements, and other collaborations often prioritize French companies and interests. This approach has fueled resentment and demands for more equitable relationships that genuinely prioritize Africa's growth and development. The backlash against Macron's comments underlines the growing sense of agency among the African nations. Growing rejection among leaders and citizens alike of any narrative that tramples on sovereignty and contribution is observed. The call for mutual respect and partnership reflects a broader shift toward redefining the relationship of Africa with former colonial powers. Sketched on a wider canvas, African nations have striven for decades to dismantle the legacy of colonialism and to build a future founded on self-determination. Of course, foreign assistance can be used to help overcome particular challenges, but it has to be grounded in respect for African sovereignty and priorities. Macron's comments and the reactions to them have again made clear that what France needs is a fundamental rethinking of its approach to Africa. This will require France to go beyond mere symbolic acts and rhetoric. This is about not only assuming responsibility for past errors, but also concretely supporting the development and independence processes of Africa. It involves economic policy reforms like the CFA franc system, respecting decisions on military presence, and fostering partnerships that put Africa's interests first. The present discourse also emphasizes the imperatives of African unity and cooperation in resolving shared challenges. Strengthening regional organizations and collective action will, therefore, enhance the agency of African countries to determine a course that befits their aspirations. In the end, Macron's utterances have indeed stirred a very necessary debate about France's position in Africa and generally in post-colonial relations. Criticisms by African leaders and citizens denote a growing determination for sovereignty and respect. Going forward, what will work is genuine partnership based on mutual respect and goals that are shared in order to create a future that benefits both Africa and its global partners.